Do you know that email continues to be one of the most common attack vectors, and that phishing, and in particular email impersonation, are causing millions of incidents every year and even a higher amount of financial losses for the victims? You would think that by now, email security will be more mature. And the reality is that it could be, if the right tools and protocols will be put in place by the companies and organizations around the world. Sacha Matlovich, Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder of Sendmarc, will be with us today to talk exactly about how they are solving this challenge and how their company is developing and distributing tools that are facilitating the implementation of important protocols like DMARC to solve the issues behind phishing and email impersonation. Welcome to another episode of Scaling Cyber. I'm your host, Ignacio Sbampato, and today we're going to be learning about a company called Sendmarc that was founded in South Africa more than 5 years ago and today has presence all over the world. And not only that, they have strategic partnerships with cybersecurity leaders like Sophos. Sacha, one of the co-founders, will tell us more about the challenges they solve and the journey that they have gone through. Let's go straight to talk to Sacha. Welcome to another episode of Scaling Cyber. Thank you very much for being here with us, Sacha. How are you doing? Where are you these days?
Hey, Ignacio. Yeah, doing very well. Thank you. I'm currently on the ground in our European office, which is in Amsterdam. And I'm doing well. It's nice to have my feet on the ground. It's nice to be talking to you as always. I love chatting to you about GTM and growing businesses. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Not a bad place to be, Amsterdam, right? Especially you tend to travel a lot. That's what I notice, right?
Yeah, I never, people told me they have a good airport here in the Netherlands called Schiphol. And I never appreciated it so much until now when it's my second home. So I'm at Schiphol all the time, and it really helps having a good airport. So just got back from Spain. We were in Barcelona at 2 conferences back to back. So Falcon, which was CrowdStrike's conference, was during the week. And then on the weekend was Mozilla, who's one of our investors. Mozilla's invested in Sendmarc. They have their MozFest conference over the weekend as well, where we were exhibiting. So yeah, but other than Spain, it's, we're all over the place. We're in the UK very often, we're in the US pretty often, and then up and down to South Africa a bit as well. So helps having a good airport to transit.
Especially when you're trying to build and scale a global company, right? You need a good airport nearby so you can go all over the world. And that's like the first topic I wanted to ask you more. I was like about the company itself, what Sendmarc does, because it's not a topic that is the most known, right? So at least it's not something that has been known for many years, and it started to be more a trend recently. So tell me a little bit about what Sendmarc is, what it does.
Yeah, sure. I think you and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, it's not the sexiest part of cybersecurity, right? We're in the area, we sometimes like to call it the dirty dishes. It's like in the restaurant, someone's got to do the dirty dishes, But every restaurant has to clean their dirty dishes, and we're the dishwashing machine. So what we do is we stop bad actors from impersonating your email addresses. So as a company, you have this risk that an impersonator can use your email addresses and use your email domain. It's called spoofing, something everyone's really well aware of. And they can use that domain and send attacks against the people that trust your brand, normally outside of your organization. Because you've got a lot of very good sort of secure email gateways and perimeter guys that are protecting your your staff and your environment and those kind of things. So we focus more outside the organization. We're protecting your email domain outside. So we're stopping bad actors from impersonating you and attacking your customers, your supply chain, your investors, other people that trust your brand. Now, that is done using a protocol called DMARC. Okay, and that's where we get the DMARC in the Sendmarc name. Stands for domain-based domain messaging authentication reporting and conformance. And it's basically a
Very
global
strong
standard
name.
for
Very strong name,
authenticating
right?
email. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think all the DMARC companies had to put that in their name. So we've got it too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it
Mm.
like it's complex, right? Like for regular people to understand like what DMARC is or like SPF or DKIM, there are like all these like words in cybersecurity, and that's one part of what I see you guys a lot, and that's what I wanted to ask you about at the beginning about what Sendmarc does, because you do a lot of work not only on providing your solution, but also on trying to raise awareness about why it's important and what all these different acronyms really mean for the end user.
We're trying to simplify this idea for people. So I think, coming back to the dirty dishes, it's like everyone has to do them. They just don't want to do them themselves. So we're here to simplify it, make it meaningful, and actually, so that you don't have to think about it anymore,
Yeah.
because the world doesn't need to understand all these acronyms. What the world needs to understand is really just that they need their domain to be compliant, so that it can't be weaponized, and that's what we do.
And this happens a lot more than what people knows. This type of impersonation. I talked with the major the, procurement services provider recently, and they had several cases, where because of someone using a lookalike domain or because of someone using some other email address, someone in the chain of emails took the opportunity to redirect an invoice or to redirect a payment somewhere else. So it's a risk that happens a lot and has a lot of is really based on humans at the end of the day. And the solution that Sendmarc provides is really there to try to mitigate and reduce that humans makes mistakes at the end of the day.
Yeah, you got a lot of I hear a lot of our sort of peers in the industry are working on a human level of protection. We're trying to get the job done before it even reaches the humans, right? So stopping impersonators from being able to use the domain, because we're very dependent on humans to sort of decide what is authentic and what is fake at the moment. And we all know that making fake content and fake news and everything is much easier today. So generative AI and all of this makes the quality of phishing emails much better, much easier. So we're in the business of trying to stop that before it even happens. So locking down your domain uh, from abuse.
And it's true that the quality of the other side, of the dark side, is really getting better. Before, it was easier to notice when an email was being written by someone that English or Spanish or Italian was not their first language, right?
Mm.
Like in my case, that English is not my first language. And what I find very particular about Sendmarc is that you are building out of South Africa. And South Africa is not the most common cybersecurity hub in the world. And out of there, you really spread all over the world. It has been not a short journey, right? But the last couple of years, DMARC started to become more a standard, so you started to see more results. And I want to focus a little bit more on that, on the journey of building something out of South Africa that today is basically all over the world, because you have people in the US, in Latin America, in Australia, in Europe. So how it got started, how Sendmarc got started, why in South Africa, this topic became popular for you guys.
Yeah. So believe it or not, South Africa somehow seems to have some good email guys. So you had the Mimecast guys also built their business. So they're also South African guys, and they quickly made the hop from South Africa to the UK, and then from the UK to the US, and they built an incredible business, Mimecast, which we all know.
Yeah.
And so for us, our journey is sort of connected to them in some ways, but also it's our own journey. So our founders, myself and my two business partners, came out of the email space, actually in email marketing. Sam Hutchinson, our CEO, and Keith Thompson, our CTO, both built the biggest email marketing business in Africa. So sort of like the MailChimp of Africa. And in doing that, they have to understand email incredibly well. So they got to deliver billions of emails. And at one point, Sam went over to a conference in San Francisco called Morgue, which is really all about messaging abuse. It's like a working group to kind of defeat abuse in the messaging space, and learned about this DMARC part. Now, what you'll see is a lot of companies like ours came out of the necessity to deliver mail better. Because if mail's authentic, it gets delivered better. So that was kind of like the start of that idea. But really, like Sam wanted to move into away from marketing and into cybersecurity, into defense, and solve that problem. And so when I met up with Sam, he explained this problem and how you could solve it using these protocols. And I loved the idea and jumped on board. And then we started this business in South Africa. We had no idea that we would be trading a few years later in 40 countries and have, like you say, offices in sort of 5 major regions. So it's been an incredible journey, and one we're really grateful for. I'm happy to talk more about that if you're interested in that part.
And it's interesting because there are several cases that I noticed of companies like yours that you had a previous business. This is not the first time that you have your own business or you are leading your business that was not related not to cybersecurity or compliance, but then out of some necessity that you had or some issue that you saw appearing in your other business, you ended up making the jump to cybersecurity. And it's interesting because when you build a company this way, you have the mindset of a customer, not the mindset of a builder alone. Now, how much you think that is relevant for you guys that you started more like from this customer point of view? Do you think that it was really, something that helped you build the company and the product in particular a stronger proposition for the end customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we've been entrepreneurs our whole lives, let's say. So for a long time, for more than half my life, I've been an entrepreneur. And I think that it's exactly as you say. I think, so firstly, coming out of South Africa, a lot of entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of problems to solve. So it's, in a way, it's a disadvantage because it's a small market with a lot of infrastructure problems. But in another way, that creates an advantage because as an entrepreneur, there's lots of problems to solve, lots of gaps to fill. And if you can do that and you can sort of incubate it inside that small market, then you can take it and you can move to your next market. Okay. So that's what we did. So we've been entrepreneurs most of our lives. And the way that we start businesses, and I think the way we started this business is, as you say, we started by selling immediately to a customer, going to speak to customers straight away. So I think on day one, Sam explained the idea to me. And on day 2, I was sitting with customers and trying to sell this idea to customers so that we got immediate feedback of, is there someone who's going to buy this? Do they want this? What will they pay for this? So my belief is, and I'm sure you will agree, is without sales, there's no business, right? I mean, you can't start a business without a really strong sales strategy. So yeah, that's been core for us.
Yeah, and I see, when I talk with many companies that are led by, by purely cybersecurity people and purely like technical people, sometimes they take too long to develop the product before even talking, with their first customers, because they know from a technical point of view that the product will deliver something of some value, at least for them. But then they take too long to talk to the customer, and then they need to iterate a lot because it was not really what the end customer, the actual user, wants. In your case, this is like day 2, and I think like this past experience as an entrepreneur help you to avoid like that long delay between having an idea and having the first customer, right?
Yeah. And today, I mean, I think this is the greatest time for entrepreneurs we've ever seen, right? Because today you can build products so fast using vibe coding. I mean, you can go and you can test ideas with customers and have a product, within a week that is maybe an MVP that you can start using. So, I mean, it's just amazing, and that's what we're starting to do now with our next iterations and our sort of product expansion. Is we're able to build, test with customers very quickly, get feedback, change, that type of stuff. So, yeah, I think it's even more relevant today because you can build so fast.
Yeah, yeah, and that's at the end of the day, what is most important these days is not to have that technical knowledge, but the idea, the access to the customers, and the passion to build. At least that's my feeling. And I wanted to ask you about this. When you are building, right, or when you are scaling the Sendmarc, did you go global from from the beginning, from day one, or you took more time in South Africa and then you started to go global? And what was the motivation to leave South Africa? What was
Yeah,
really the reason why you thought that you needed to leave?
yeah. Now so we did not go global immediately. We went local. We sort of went to the customer that was a 10-minute drive from, from our favorite coffee shop, type of thing. So we went very local immediately to the people who we had good relationships with. We could test really quickly, and that kind of thing. And then what we did was we started to, after that, to start expanding globally. We started speaking to, again, people we could trust that had, so South Africans, a lot of them moved and live all over the world, just like
Yep.
Argentinians, right?
Yeah.
So we found the South Africans that are living in Australia, in London, in the US, and say to them, "Hey guys, this is our idea. Do you have some customers we could talk to? What do you think?" And sort of started using the friendly network to slowly get out there. But we had no intention of building a global business at the beginning. Um, and that's probably one of the disadvantages of South Africa, is that our minds are maybe a bit small in terms of the way
Yeah.
our view of the world is a bit small. So we sort of thought we'll build a good business in maybe Southern Africa, and but luckily we had tapped into something that the whole world needed, and it sort of spread very quickly. And within the first year, we realized, okay, this is a global business, whether we like it or not, because we now already had customers in probably over 10 countries.
Well, and you were relatively early on the topic, right? I know now the topic of DMARC, even if it was known by some people, I know specialists in email, it was not something that was a popular topic that people was worried about. But then, Google, Microsoft,
Yeah.
Yahoo started to implement these new standards, and that's where people started to hear it more about. How was the journey for you to build Sendmarc before it became such a relevant protocol, and after, what really changed when the push from those big players came?
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that, okay, so this is not new, and we were not the first guys.
Hmm.
There was definitely the first generation of companies that came through, probably, sort of like 2015, 2016, 2017. We launched 2020, so we were like the next phase, the next wave of DMARC companies. Um, and so it had been around for a while, but it was picking up relevance because, as you say, like more and more of the receiving servers were respecting the DMARC protocol. Because really, when you set up your domain with a protocol, you need the receiving server to obey that protocol. So that was
Yep.
something that was starting to pick up relevance. So we're getting this critical mass, and that started picking up. And at that stage, it was all about education, right? So we had to. It wasn't. There was no Microsoft, Google, or Yahoo that were pushing for this. So you really had to educate people, like, this is a good thing to do. So one of the
Yep.
first things we did was, Keith, our one of our founders, he used to be able to impersonate somebody, using, like, setting up a sort of like a mail server and impersonate someone. And I said to him, like, I need this. Like, I need a tool that I can do this. This is a great sales tool. Like, instead of trying to explain like all the technical sort of authentication processes and all that, what I'll simply do is say to someone, if I can send an email from you and deliver it to you or your supplier or myself, will you see the value in this? And the answer is always yes, of course. And so Steve built me a tool that we could actually impersonate people, and we could demonstrate this in an ethical way. We could demonstrate this problem to people. So in the early days, it was more about sort of using that as a way to show people they had a problem. Whereas once Microsoft and Google and Yahoo said, they're not going to deliver mail unless it's compliant, etc., then this kind of became a topic for the CISO, and everyone sort of understands it. We're using that tool a lot less nowadays. It's much more about execution. So I think we've seen a life cycle of a business, like where you start and you've got to do lots of education, you've got to do lots of proving, and then you start moving around into, okay, now it's more about perhaps service delivery, about pricing, about distribution. And I think we're now in that phase where it's really about who can get the most distribution and kind of speed of servicing customers, and giving customers information and quoting and so on.
Yeah, and that's, you were able to very easily show the value, but maybe the customers were like not ready until they started to feel it, that, okay, this is a problem because I need to do it, because otherwise my emails are not going to get to my customers, right? And this is what I noticed with you guys. I know you expanded globally, right? You have people now, in 5 regions, as you said, but you are also not using one distribution channel to get to those customers. You started, as you said, more like in the direct approach. Then you became strong, on the MSP side, at least in some countries, and now you are building actually a lot of OEM partnerships. Recently you closed a strong partnership with Sophos, and not only that, you are available in marketplaces like in ConnectWise. You are really becoming, I will say, strong, established vendor within the space, because you are available through multiple distribution channels. Was this part of a strategy? You had a strategy like, okay, we want to go step by step, or was this more a result of being out in the market as you are, sitting with customers, and started to realize that you needed to find different ways and different channels to get to most of the customers? How you got to this situation today of being in as many channels as a very strong, established, multi-billion vendor is?
Yeah. So for us, it was about building like each layer, over time. We see it like that. So I think, starting a business, you have to go straight to the customer, so that you're right there getting that feedback directly from the customer and getting that affirmation, in the early days, like, is this valuable? What will you pay? What's the experience like? You're in control of the customer experience, right? So we did that for the first, 50 customers or whatever it was, 100 customers. And then soon after that, we realized, like, now the unit economics comes into play. Like, this solution is not very expensive, and it's also very technical. So it starts to make sense that it fits into a wider defense strategy. It's not like customers are not going to want to always buy this as like a single point solution. They probably need to speak to their MSPs and their advisors. So we sort of evolved into the MSP space, and we said, and it was deliberate. I mean, it wasn't by mistake. We understood that customers, this was going to be, like I say, too specific for every customer to care about. Like, we had 100 friendly customers that wanted to give us time, and they were interested in new things, like the early adopters. But as we move into like kind of, you want to start moving into the majority or the early majority, we knew we were going to have to be a part of a more sort of broader email defense discussion, which really meant for us MSPs and value-added resellers. And in South Africa, we had like a mix, and it was difficult to tell the difference. And I don't know if you sometimes come across this as like, are you an MSP? Are you a value-added reseller? And sometimes, it's a value-added reseller, but they're calling themselves an MSP. And with respect, we understand that. I mean, they getting the right mix of what their customers want as well. So we came into that space, and it was very deliberate. And we knew that by doing that, we also didn't want to compete against them for direct customers. So we made it clear from the beginning that we would always be partner first, and we would not compete against our partners. And that was a difficult decision, really difficult, because, you know, a lot of people in our organization would argue that why don't we go direct? There's more margin in it for it, more control. But we were always very clear that we would give up the margin for the partner relationship and the partner trust, because we had a bigger vision, like we could get more scale, more distribution through this partner network. And we didn't want to build a sales team of hundreds and hundreds of people. Also for a product where the average contract value was quite low. So it sort of made sense to move into the channel. And then we started, you know, so we sort of started in the MSP space. And then at that point, that was what was right for us. We had a few distributors come and start talking to us, and we were like, what? Like, what do you even do? Like we don't understand. Like, we're managing these MSPs. Like, what do you do? Like, what value do you add? We couldn't understand distribution at all. And it took about a full year of speaking to distributors. And I remember being on a call with my CRO, and we were speaking to a distributor, and suddenly for me, the penny like dropped. It's like, oh, now I get it. Like, now's the right time for distributors. Like, you're an extension of our sales team. Okay, I understand. And so we started sort of developing our first couple of distributors. And as you say, we've even taken the next step after that, which is OEM. So happy to unpack that and our thinking around that.
And you know, distribution is not an easy topic, and you have experienced it so far, because sometimes a partnership with a distributor looks great on paper, but when it comes to execution, it doesn't work the way you want. And sometimes it's exactly the other way around. You know, some small niche distributor is surprising you with a lot more power and reach that you expected. And so before we move to talk about like the OEM side, let's talk one more second or one more moment about the distribution side. What have been the learnings here so far for you? Because in my opinion, distribution is about scaling, as you said, but you need to have a strong base. And for many companies, especially not in a big market like in the US, companies that are European or African like you guys, scaling through distributors is what makes sense, because you cannot be all over the world at the same time. But it doesn't always work. There are good situations and bad situations. What are like the big learnings from you on trying to scale through distribution so far?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, we don't have the answers yet. We are still very much learning. We're still in this journey. You know, I would be rather asking you the answers to those questions, but I'm happy to share my my learnings so far. Let's call it that.
Yes.
Learnings thus far. Lots of space for improvement. So I think what has worked for us is that we, firstly, smaller boutique distributors that have been focused on cybersecurity. One in particular, I'll mention, Brigantia in the UK. We had a call with them, and they said to us, "We'd like to list you guys." And we were still in that mindset of like, not really interested in distributors. And they said but they convinced us, and they said, "We want you to have a funded head in our business." And I was like, "No chance am I giving you money for a funded head." And then in that moment, I said, "But what if you give us a minimum order?" And they said, "Okay, we'll give you a minimum order for the same value as the funded head." So now it's like there's some skin in the game from their side and from our side. Okay, great. And it worked brilliantly, because they had a bit of pressure because they had some stock that they could sell. But we had some focus from the people in the organization, and it was a net. So they weren't losing any money, we weren't losing any money. So, you know, but we could show, they could show they were getting paid for a funded head. We could show that we had some income, and we got to it really like a partnership. So I think that what's worked well for us is a little bit of commitment, not huge amounts, but a little bit of commitment on both sides. The funded head worked really well. He's absolutely brilliant, and he continues to work well for us today. And we want more and more of his time. So we went from paying half his salary to paying his full salary in a short space of time, because he's so good. And it gave us that focus in the organization. The CEO of the business, was excellent. He really cared about the product. So I think it was a personality and relationship thing. And we actually mattered to them. So they, one of the things that we're finding now is when we're speaking to distributors is we find out like, what is the number? What is the revenue number that they want to build with us? And are we a meaningful part of their business? Because we've also walked down the road with some of the really big guys, and whatever number we build with them would be meaningless to them. So like, why would they even care? So we're trying to focus on distributors where we matter to their revenue number. And then one other thing I'll mention is like, yes, we do believe that distribution is a good route for us coming from South Africa, because you can't be present in every region, you can't speak every language, those kind of things. So it's important it's a great idea to use that. But I do think you've got to identify those people where you're going to really matter. And then what we're trying to do as well is present to them a solution that is not just a cybersecurity solution, but is a GTM solution. Yep. So we're very aware that like, it's not just about solving the cybersecurity problem. It's actually about solving the GTM problem. So what we're doing is making sure that our go-to-market motions are really well refined, so that distributors can go to their customers or their resellers and say, guys, here's something that's going to help you win new business. It's going to help you win new logos. It's going to help you retain customers. So yes, it solves that cybersecurity problem, but it also solves the sales problem, and making sure that GTM is really, really good and easy to work with. So we know we have to get that right also.
Yeah, and I think that's key, because my experience with distribution is I have a lot of different stories, right? But at the end of the day, partnerships are based on people, not on technology. And a Polish distributor that I have a good relationship with, actually told me, I don't care that much about the product as long as the product does the job. What I care is really about the relationship that I have and what I can expect, that I'm gonna get from the vendor, and what I can give in return because of that. Because products, there are thousands, right? There are different ways that distributors can make money, but at the end, you need to find the right match in the case that you did with Brigantia. And what I wanted to ask you, on building on this, going back to the topic of EM, because at the end, a lot of this, is related with you and your team being all over the world all the time. They are in events, they are talking with people. Not every conversation works, not every event works as well as you would like to, but you are really outside. You are not staying in the office. And I believe that out of that, you are getting a lot of these opportunities for the OEM business as well. And having a partnership with Sophos is probably something that many startups and scale-ups, will love to have. It will be like a quite an achievement. Now, how you think that you were able to reach to so many OEM partnerships and convert them to be partners of Sendmarc these days? What was really the secret sauce, the aha moment? What caused that this will be happening in reality?
Yeah, we're super grateful, and also surprised that we were able to land a partnership with Sophos and some of the others. Some of our customers even are some of the biggest cybersecurity companies in the world, and we protect their domains. And to be sitting at the table with those guys is like how did we do this? And I think looking back, I'd say the number one principle was we were willing to work really hard. So, and everyone could see that. So the minute we'd meet these guys, whether it was Sophos or others, they could see that we would work really, really hard. And we had no choice but to work hard, because we're coming from a smaller market. We're an unknown brand. So what we lack in terms of the sort of gravitas and the cachet of coming from Silicon Valley, or San Francisco, we've got to make up for by working super hard, being flexible, over delivering. So I'd say hard work was the one part. But yes, the in-person meetings is definitely a thing in this industry. Getting out there and seeing people, it's expensive. It takes time. But for us, we've seen it's become more and more important. So we're doing more and more of it. Not so much on the sponsorship side, because I know that for businesses, when you look at your budget and you have to sponsor all these events, it becomes impossible, right?
Yeah.
You're spending $50,000 or per event, or 20,000. It's too much to do. But to pick a few, and then also the rest just come as a delegate, and set up key meetings. I think it's been brilliant for us. So Falcon, for example, great event. We'll go every year. Those kind of events where our target market is from partners, customers, distributors, and alliance partners. I think that's also been great for us. So the likes of Sophos and others that we've built alliances with, meeting them in person has helped. Okay, so yeah, that would be my answer. We were willing to really work hard. We were willing to be flexible. Our product was the best. I mean, I can say that it wasn't all about the product being the best,
Yes.
but the product was the best because we worked the hardest. It wasn't because we smarter than everybody else. It was that we worked harder than everybody else. And so in the case of Sophos, we had to actually, we beat one of our competitors there, because we'd worked harder on the product. And then building the relationship side, and those relationships, like you say, it's gold. Once people trust you and you've got that relationship, they're willing to introduce you to other people as well. So we use the networking effect. But yeah, all of this comes with lots of trips to Schiphol Airport, lots of taxis, trains, planes. You know the story.
Yeah,
I mean,
and if you're not willing to make that effort, it's very difficult to grow. You need to get out from your comfort zone. But then you are a good example
Absolutely.
of how, when that is done properly, and you have a solid product, then you are able to see the results. And of course, it was not from one day to the other, right? Because with many of these guys, you were talking for a long time, until some results starting to happen. So it's a great job, and I can say that your product is the best. I use it for my domains. Very happy, so easy to set up. I set up myself. So it's actually something that I really enjoy using. And this is something, two more topics, that I wanted to explore on the Sendmarc side and how it works, because not everybody still gets it, even if it's, picking up, right? For me, one of the things that was the most magical thing about this space, and then about Sendmarc, was to be able to know what my potential customers have before I even talk to them. Coming from the endpoint world, like I do, if I wanted to know, okay, I need to compete against Kaspersky, or I need to compete against CrowdStrike because I'm ESET, to find out what the customer has, it takes time. Sometimes I even need to get this NDA signed. But in the case of Sendmarc, because all of this information is public on the DNS, you can get a list of domains of your potential customers and be ready in advance. And I saw how you capitalize that. Can you explain a little bit about how the market has been evolving and how you were taking advantage of these tools that you have that are not the most common, right, on other cybersecurity sectors?
Yeah, we spoke earlier about being a good GTM solution as well, as not just a cybersecurity, and I think what you've spoken about there is what attracted me to Sendmarc in the first place. So when Sam and Keith showed me what they could do, they showed me that you could look at any domain's DNS and see where it had gaps in the policies and things like that. And I was like, as a GTM guy, I was like, this is awesome.
Yes.
Like, I need okay, this is like half my problem solved, is that I actually know which customers to approach, and then how to maybe develop that into an angle. And today we're still refining that 6 years later, 5 years later, we're still refining that process and getting better and better at it. So it is one of the beautiful things about DMARC, is that we can have a look at any company and know whether they are vulnerable to impersonation or not, and if they're using one of our competitors, if it's successful, if it's failing. And one of the things we've done is we track about 50,000 domains on a monthly basis to get their history as well. So we can also see changes that are happening in those domains, so that when they one day become customers, or when we one day have the opportunity to to present to them, we can also say to them, we can see the struggle you've had and you've failed and tried and failed. And now we're here. The dishwashing machine is going to do the dirty dishes for you, you know, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So yeah, that has been super helpful. And what we're doing is we're turning that more and more, that visibility of DNS, we're turning that into a tool for our partners so that they can really book demos with their customers. They've got sales angles where they can give customers immediate value upfront in a very easy way. You know, like, I see, we looked at your domain, you've got this problem, we see you've been struggling, we want to fix it for you, blah, blah, blah. So we're really turning that into a whole GTM motion for our partners, and giving customers upfront value and giving our partners that value as well.
Yeah, that's what I think is important, because you make the job of the partners, easier this way, and you give them a great opportunity to increase revenue from their existing customers, with already a proven, GTM approach. So and there is still a huge opportunity ahead, right? Because there are still like a large percentage of domains that are not on the right level of DMARC, right? And speaking about the future and ahead, what are the plans for Sendmarc, or how do you see the email security field evolving, and how do you see Sendmarc evolving with it? What is that what you can share, right? What is that you can see ahead for the company and for the space?
Yeah. Look, we decided that we wanted to be hyper focused and be the best at this one thing. And so we continue on that. There's still so much work for us to do in terms of what we've just spoken about, really giving our partners better and better GTM tools. One of the things we're starting to use, let's say, agentic AI to also help to serve those partners and give them the tools they need when they need them for the meetings they're having with customers, etc. So we're trying to speed up this process, remove more friction from this process. Anywhere where it's manual, we need to automate it, make it easier and easier for our partners. So we still want to be the best at this one thing. There's still, like you say, a huge number of customers that are vulnerable to impersonation, a huge number that are trying to protect their domains and failing. So there's still a big job to be done there. We do still agree that, customers are going to be looking at a broader defense strategy, and therefore being a part of the MSP, the MSSP, all of that is important. And then the OEM as well. So that's why we've built this OEM platform, is because we understand that some customers are not going to want more than one vendor for the email security. So let them rather get the best DMARC product through that vendor. It's, designed by us. So we're doing those joint ventures to give customers access to our product under one brand, and we're going to continue to do those things. And then just building up more distribution, because the problem with DMARC is it's a distribution problem. There's so many companies that need it. It's a relatively low ticket value, so it's you got to work out how to get really big distribution to solve this problem. Of course, we also have our sights set on sort of like some very sort of smart adjacent product evolution. So, if we can stop email impersonation, what's the next level of impersonation that we can also stop? And we'll have some product out in probably Q1 of next year, where
Wow.
we're starting to look more at just expanding that offering slightly, but still very much in the anti-email impersonation space.
But I think it's that right approach, rather than trying to expand too much, what you're going to do, you try to become the best in a particular niche, and then be available in every possible way to connect with the customer. That makes complete sense. And clearly you're doing a good job, because I can see how Sendmarc is growing. So, I don't have any more questions. So the question is, like, if there was something that I missed, and I should have asked you, and you would like to share before we go.
No, I think one thing you mentioned earlier, that you said you're getting out of your comfort zone. And I think that that would be my message to more, let's say, other vendors that are in startup, is that that was absolutely the case for us. And I wanted to tell you one story, is that we went to our first event in London. So I hadn't been to London for 15 years. I mean, we came from South Africa, moved to Europe. I was kind of moved my family to Amsterdam, and we went to our first event in London, our first cyber event. And I remember arriving there and like we knew nobody, and it was like felt like a complete loser. I don't know if you remember back in the day when you used to go to a nightclub or a bar and you
Yeah.
had like no friends, and you're standing there like sort of like hoping someone will talk to you, That's what it felt like, and it was really tough, really, really tough. And then over time, we built up friendships and relationships. And now when we go to conferences, we have some friends there. So it's like arriving at the bar and you can at least go and talk to some people who know you, who smile and hug you and, buy you a drink. And I think that so I think my sort of advice, if anyone's starting, is to find some friends, like find a community of people that you can be a part of, and because you got to get out of your comfort zone. And we did that. We got out of our comfort zone, and it worked eventually. It was super painful, but it did work in the end. And so yeah. And then I wanted to lastly also just say thank you to you. I think you've been a great advisor to me over the years and helped me a lot. So I really appreciate our friendship.
Happy to, and thank you very much also for the support back of being here in the first season of Scaling Cyber. I'm really looking forward to bring more stories like yours, and that last part about getting out of the comfort zone and being part of the community. I agree, it's very, very important. Thank you very much, Sacha, for being here with us, and we stay in touch. Thank you. It has been very interesting for me to share with you and to learn more about the journey of Sendmarc, a company that was born in South Africa, which is not the most common place for cybersecurity companies to come from. Now, not only that, Sacha and his co-founders are growing very rapidly. In only 5 years, they went from a company that was only in the South African market to an organization that spans all around the world, with partners in more than 40 countries and strategic partners like Sophos. This has been the last episode of our first season here at Scaling Cyber. For those that have been listening from the beginning, thank you very much for supporting us. I hope that every journey that we shared with you has been very interesting, and every new innovator that we have been able to explore has shown you how the cybersecurity market continues to evolve, and disruption can happen everywhere, not only in the US or Tel Aviv. I'm looking forward to what we are working on for the next season. And until then, please stay with us. Now rewatch and learn more about the cybersecurity world. And remember, stay safe and keep building.